his only son, a teenager diagnosed with leukemia, who needed cell stem transplant abroad, who need the treatment abroad. She was asking for money, 150,000 euro. And because I've heard about a case, another teenager that was treated in the US and was successfully treated, I thought that Dragos will be a chance. And together with Duana, I started fighting the authorities to make sure that the state would allow Dragos the right to live. And for the next months, we drew up a lot of memos. We discussed through phone with authorities. We spent nights writing on social media. And in the end, we organized a protest in 2009. Protest didn't exist in Romania. Dragos left for a hospital in Jerusalem, in Israel, and we managed to raise for him 10,000 euro. And Dragos, an 18 years old with leukemia, had brought me face to face for the second time with the healthcare system, a system that sentences people to death. Back then, I said the death penalty haven't been abolished in Romania. This is me. These are some reasons for why I do what I do. And there are for sure another unknown reasons, but maybe I will discover in the future. Professor Hack, it is your turn for presenting yourself.
Thanks, Carmen. Thanks very much. We want to make this session interactive. We'll show you some presentation, but what will be the best way? If I ask a question, and I know it's very difficult for you to respond, except in the chat room and stuff, feel free to raise your hand and maybe. Let me ask you, how many of you know of people, your friends, your colleagues, your relatives, another child who suffered from cancer? Many of you know. You can raise your hand if you know. Somebody in the family. Yeah, don't be shy. Okay, all right. We want to make it interactive, right? So you can see almost all of you have learned about cancer, through the story that Mrs. Uscatu told us about Dragos. And so we all are drawn to cancer in many different ways. One other thing, I know our time is half hour, but we may go a little over half hour. And Elena told us that your next presentation is an hour from now. If we go over time, will that be okay?
Of course, you can stay up to an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, we don't need that much, but just want to make sure that if we go over time that, you're okay with that.
There's no problem.
So a few words about myself. Alex told us that you all have backgrounds in physics. You like to do computing. There's some information about marketing, coding, but most importantly, you all are very good at robotics. Believe me, I don't know much about robotics. Don't ask me any question about robotics. You know a lot more about robotics than either Carmen or I know. But like you, when I was your age, I was very interested in physics. So you all are interested in physics also. That's what Alex told us in his email. And at your age, it's a very impressionable age, I got drawn to physics because you hear the name of Einstein, Newton. all these big names, and you naturally get drawn. And we have seen historically around the world, it's the bright people who get pulled into physics. So I'm not surprised, to see what you are doing. You all bright people have gotten together, and you've developed an expertise in robotics. So I got a PhD in physics, and I came to US about 40 years ago and got a PhD, oh my goodness, about 30, 35 years ago. And after doing PhD, I did a lot of research, basic science research. Teaching is my passion. I like to teach. So I taught a little bit and did a lot of research, published a lot of papers. And then I started to think, I've learned all these principles of physics. How can I use these principles of physics and make maybe a rewarding career where I can see the impact of my work on an everyday life? The basic science research that I was doing, you get published in the literature and they get buried someplace. Who knows whether that will have a direct impact on a everyday life? But I wanted to see the impact of my work. So I started to think how the principles of physics can be applied in medicine. And that's where you all come. You are very good with robots. You are very good with physics and all others. The question is, a day may come when you may start to think, with your background, you want to do science, you want to do research. And it's the same thought that was going through my mind. How can I advance medicine through excellence in science, in education, and professional practice? And how can I apply the physics principles in medicine? So as I searched through, I went through a period in my career, I searched through them, and I bumped into what is known as medical physics. Have you heard about medical physics? What medical physics is? Anybody? I'm not surprised. I heard about medical physics after I got my PhD, when I was doing soul searching. So this may be an opportunity for you to learn something different. Carmen, how many of you have seen Carmen on TV in Romania? So she's a household name there, right? With the work that she is doing. So we thought that she brings a background in a patient advocacy. She's building a hospital that will be the best children's hospital. And I bring in some background in physics and in medical physics, and we'll tell you what medical physics is a little bit. So we thought that as when Carmen and I were trying to figure out what it is that we talked to you about, we thought that we'll tell you something that you probably are not familiar with, but you can apply the principles that you're learning, the technology, the robots, and how can you apply that to potentially help improve the care of cancer patients. That's where we both do. That's the passion of both Carmen and me. So what I want to do, I want to share a presentation with you. I will speak for a little bit first, and then Carmen will take over to talk through the slides. And we'll try to show some movies, so I'll have to share and unshare presentations. So be patient with us. We are not as technologically as savvy as you all are. When I have technology issues, I go to my son and I say, tell me, how do I do this? How do I do that? WhatsApp is a big technology for me. So, anyway, so let's see, how I'll share a presentation with you. And I am on desktop 1. Okay. So do you see a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, we do.
Okay, all right. Let me go to that. So you see the presentation, right?
Right.
Okay. So
Yes.
as you can see, the title of the presentation is, what do you want to be? when you grow up. And believe me, we have gone through your age, so we have through our life cycle, as Carmen and I were telling, how we discovered as to what we do, and we are very passionate about what we do. So I'm a professor and director of the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm also the president of a society of all the medical physicists. There are about 9,000 members in the world, and this is a society in the USA. And Carmen, she's the president of this NGO, the Give Life Association that they have put together, as she mentioned, in 2012 with Owana. Now, and let me move this thing out of the way. So you are interested in technology, robots, and your background is in physics. So the question is, how can you apply those principles, to translate a career in healthcare, or maybe treating cancer patients? And so let's look into that. So what is cancer? Cancer is actually, it's not a single disease. It's the name given to a host family of disease. They all share a common characteristic. Okay, and that characteristic is this uncontrolled growth of abnormal cancer cells. Okay, these cancer cells keep growing and growing. You have learned in your biology course class in high school that these cells grow in a very controlled fashion. They grow, this divide, but they're all controlled. But you have some abnormal cells that grow in a very uncontrolled fashion, keep growing and growing, bigger and bigger. And you hear about tumors that people have. There are all kinds. There are over 100 different kinds of cancers: lung cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, brain, and within each of these there are many different types. Okay, so that's as a whole, in very general knowledge, what cancer is. And these days, when we treat cancer patients, how do we treat them? Typically, there are all different kinds. And we have shown you here three main modalities of treatment: surgery, chemotherapy. You have heard chemotherapy. Nowadays, we talk about immunotherapy also, and radiation therapy. So these are sort of three main modalities of treatment. And so patients can be treated with either of these or any combination of these. So how do you, if you want to be involved, what's the career path for you? Here we have shown you the career path, in this discipline that I know in the US. So for example, you're in high school, here in the US, you go through 4 years of in high school. Then we go to college here, university or college, you get a bachelor's degree, spend 4 years. Then we go to medical school, a bit different from what happens in Romania. In medical school, you spend 4 years typically. And after that, you decide, what do you want to be? What do you want to specialize in? You go to a residency training, you go to surgery. There it can be 5 to 8 years, depending on the type of surgeon that you want to be. If you're a neurosurgeon, it takes 7, 8 years. If you're in internal medicine, that takes 3 years. And radiation oncology is another discipline, where you need 4 years. And if you want to be a medical oncologist who prescribe those chemotherapy or immunotherapy, you do another fellowship for 2 years. But in Romania, it's my understanding that you spend 4 years in high school, then you go to the university to study medicine, and there you spend 6 years. And then if you want to specialize in surgery, it will take you anywhere from 5 to 6 years, depending on the type of surgeon you want to be. And if you want to be a medical oncologist who prescribe chemotherapy or immunotherapy, that's 5 years. And if you want to be a radiation oncologist, And I'll tell you a little bit about that. These are probably all new terms for you, and I'll not be surprised if they are. Like I said, I didn't know anything about it. I was a physicist, right? I loved physics and got into medicine finally. And radiation oncology, you have to specialize in, again, 4 years in Romania. So let me focus a little bit on radiation oncology. So what is radiation oncology? So you need a lot of team members to be able to treat a patient. There you see a child, being treated and, on a treatment table, and behind the child is what is known as the linear accelerator. And out of that comes out very high energy radiation. And we use that radiation to treat patients. So this team consists of radiation oncologist who is a physician, and they get an MD degree. And you see that medical physicist box, that's me. And that you can be a master's level or a PhD level. And then there are technicians who treat the patients on a day-to-day basis. That if that child is a woman, she's probably not a technician. But if every day when the child receives a treatment, it's the technicians who will treat them, not an MD or not a medical physicist, because it requires special training to be able to treat those, how to set up the patients on the table and treat them. But it's a team you need. If one person messes up, you will treat the patient very incorrectly. So what's the career path for a medical physicist? How do you become a medical physicist? How did I become a medical physicist? So I went to graduate school here, and yes, I went to college back home. I was born in Bangladesh, and I went to graduate school here, came to US to get a PhD. And after you get a PhD, you have to do these days a residency training, very much like what the physicians do. Or somebody who does not want to do a PhD, they can get a master's in a graduate school, and it takes about 2 years. And then after you finish this, then you have to go through a residency program where you learn the aspect of how to treat cancer patients with radiation. Our expertise is in radiation. The physician's expertise is in medicine. When they get their MD degree and they come to become a radiation oncologist, believe me, they do not know anything about how to treat these cancer patients with radiation. They essentially start over. Those 4 years, they spend their residency, they essentially learn ABC, and we teach them how to treat patients with radiation. It's one of our role, medical physicists, to teach them. They know the medical side of it. We know the radiation side of it. And you have learned about radiation. You're learning about radiation in high school. You learn about photons. You learn about electrons. It's those photons and electrons that we use to treat these patients. So after we finish our residency, then we have to take a certification exam and become a qualified medical physicist to practice in how to treat these patients. So I'll show you a slide, a movie that tells you, what does a medical physicist do? Believe me, like I said, I didn't know what they do. So I have to get out of sharing presentation, and let's see. Now I got to figure out where I put in all those. Let's see, I have to stop sharing. I have to find out the icon here. You see, now I need you guys now to tell me how best to get there.
Professor, what do you need? Do you need to
I am
close
trying
the
to find the icon
The presentation, then open
I'm looking
YouTube.
I'm looking for the link to that will tell me where to unshare. That's it. Yeah. Stop sharing the presentation.
Alex, can you help Professor tell him how to access the stop share button?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Yes, you made it.
I'm looking for it,
I've
but
done it.
oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, I was looking for it. Okay, stop sharing, and I go to this slide. So you can see a video screen, right?
Yes.
Do you see that? Can you hear it?
This deal with all aspects
Yep.
of
Yes.
patient care
Yeah.
that involves the human body or the technology that is used to care for it. We're the people who understand the technology, the computers, the algorithms, and how those apply and how they might cause risk to the patient, and therefore what must be done to make things safe.
The public needs to feel safe about the care that we provide.
Not just that I understand the equipment, but that I also understand when things go wrong and how I can help.
In some sense, our job is to put out fires that pop up in the department, solve new and unique problems that come up in the department. And that's where you earn your living as a medical physicist. That's where you show that you're a problem solver.
I see us first and foremost as really safety champions. Everything from the regulatory aspect of it to, the equipment acceptance and commissioning, and then understanding for these new technologies how to embrace it and to integrate it into clinical practice.
We literally every day take something that has a scientific background and use it in a practical way to treat patients or to help in the process to treat patients.
Medical physicists are the ones that ensure the safety, the accuracy, the precision, and the value of patient care.
We have graduate level science training that is essential technology-based healthcare.
Somebody that can take very complex scientific principles and distill them to something that's very practical at the moment. So we are people that understand science, but also people that understand healthcare. And you put those together, and that is the medical physics professional.
Research is a strong and integral part of medical physics. Not very long ago, MRI scanners, CT scanners, PET scanners, all of these used to be toys in some researcher's lab somewhere. And now when you look around us, they're used everywhere in the clinic.
Being a medical physicist, I can directly see where my work goes to. So I can see how the project that I'm working on can potentially impact the patient healthcare in 5 years, in 10 years, or maybe even if I do it fast enough, maybe in 3 years. That's a very satisfactory feeling.
Think about Marie Curie, think about Albert Einstein, who have truly shaped our civilization. With medical physics, we can bring that level of rigor and scientific presence into human health. Patient is ultimately the beneficiary of the work of the medical physicist.
All of our work are centered around patient care.
Today, anytime if I wonder why I do, walk 50 steps down the hall and see all the patients' faces sitting there waiting for their treatment, see the patients on the treatment unit, and see the profound impact that we're having on those patients.
These are all somebody's brother, sister, mother, father. You see them holding hands. You see them being anxious about what's going to happen to them. And we're there as a part of making sure that they receive safe, high-quality care.
Quality patient care relies on active contribution of a seasoned medical physicist.
Just daily to walk into the department and say, yeah, this patient got treated because I'm here. That's just something that no other profession can reach.
I don't know what my day is going to be like when I go in, and I'm never doing the same thing twice. There's always something more that you could do. It really never gets old.
I've been doing this for 40 plus years, and I still come to work each day ready to do something really fun. I love my work.
It is the most rewarding profession I can think of as a scientist. I mean, where as a scientist do you touch someone's life every single day in a good way? Directly, really hands-on directly.
It's surprising how fast time goes when I'm at work, and it really, really is a rewarding profession.
So that gives you a little perspective. Let me unshare now. I have trouble finding the button that the thing doesn't come up. That will tell me to unshare. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. Do you see that? Sorry.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, okay. I'm just resizing a little bit so that. Okay, so you got a little idea as to what a medical physicist does. Here is the picture of and the reality, the challenge in a clinical environment is that, we are, and I like to say that we are a jack of all trades. Half the time people do not know what a physicist does. I have a colleague who likes to say that, compare the role of medical physics in healthcare like an orchestra in an opera. The orchestra is not on the stage, but without that orchestra, there is no opera, right? So we are much the same without the medical physicist when it comes to treating cancer patients using radiation or doing diagnostic radiology. You have heard about our role in research and development and the clinical work. All these professionals, these are all medical physicists that you heard in that video. They are all involved in day-to-day activities in terms of developing the scientific work, developing things that are able to enhance the quality of care. So we are jack of all trades. Without us, really, we cannot treat the patients according to, say, for example, the way a patient should be treated. Here is the picture of Dr. Rock Mackey. He's a physicist, and he built this machine. And on the left is the gut of the machine. On the right is the machine. It's called tomotherapy. And he is a close friend of mine. He was a professor, but he's an entrepreneur. And why am I showing you this? You again, you talked about, Alex talked about that your interest in research, your interest in technology. You can be better than Rock Mackey, say, for example, and come up with things that will be helpful for bettering the care of millions of patients that are around the world. I'm going to show you
tumor position.
Sorry. I'm going to show you
tumor position that changes.
A couple of videos here. And on the left, I'll bring you to a position, I'll describe what I'm talking about, and then I'll show you the video. Since you all are very interested in robots, so I thought I'll show you a machine. Okay, this is a machine that is called, there's a company, its name is Accuray, and they market this machine as a cyber knife. Have any of you heard about it? Probably not. Okay, good. Can you see my cursor? So this is a machine. We have a patient laying on a table. When we treat our patients, we place these patients on the table, and this is a source of radiation that is called linear accelerator. But this is driven by a robot here. This is a German KUKA robot, and this radiation that comes, what is radiation? You have learned about photons and electrons. These photons are very high energy photons, and they are so high, millions and millions of electron volts. They can actually kill patients if you do not use them correctly. You are all young folks, you probably go to the beach to lay in the sun to get a tan, right? A lot of you do that. And a lot of you will probably be doing that in your career. But when you lay in the sun, you get the radiation from the sun. You can get burned, right? And so you put all kinds of, lotion on your body so that you don't get burned. The intensity of that radiation is millions and millions of times smaller than the intensity of this radiation that comes from these machines. From that sun's burn, you get burned, and this radiation, our goal is to use the radiation to kill the tumors. But as I told you, if you do not, their energy is so high, they can actually kill a patient. And there are many incidents that have happened where patients have died because the radiation was not delivered correctly. So we do lots of work to make sure that these radiations are delivered very accurately, and we try to save the tissue that does not need to be radiated with sub-millimeter accuracy. That's where your robots come in. You know robots very well. You know how to program that robot so that it can move this machine. So, there's the opening. That's where the radiation comes out, and depending on where the tumor is, the robot moves this linac around, and radiation is delivered. So let me play so you can see now how this robot is moving this linac. So the radiation comes from every different direction, pointing exactly at the tumor. And that couch, robo couch, that's the table, couch, a table, the same. And those are special collimators, we call them. They focus the radiation into the tumor. And as you can see, the robot moves all around. So these are called linear accelerators. There are many so right here is where the radiation comes out, the opening, and hits the patient. So, all right, so let me play the thing on the right here, and I'll turn my the sound box off here. Let me
Due
see.
to respiration, presents significant challenges in radiation.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So here you see, there's that, this is the tumor, and this is a tumor, and the yellow outline is the radiation. This is a lung tumor, and the robot is moving this machine such that it comes out from that. The radiation comes out and essentially hits the tumor. And these are very high energy radiation. As we said, that we want to make sure that, as the patient breathes, the tumor moves all around. The technology is such that you want to make sure that the radiation is hitting the tumor accurately. So here is a tremendous opportunity for you folks to try to see how, you can write codes to drive this robot so that it will deliver the radiation very quickly. The patient will not have to lie on the tumor well. You can, people have spent, years and years to try to write, codes to see exactly what path the robot should take. When should the robot deliver the radiation? So there are a lot that goes on in using these robots to deliver the treatments. So here you see the opportunities of the principles that you are learning. You all are experts in robots, and how you can use these robots to deliver radiation to treat that patient. You see that the radiation beam is turned on only when the radiation tumor in the path of the beam. And this is called collimator. On the right, you can see. And these are different shapes. They are different, we call them leaves. The shape that you see there is exactly the shape the radiation comes out from the machine. Okay, so that's one machine. And there are all different kinds of machine. They're LINAC. This is another machine that is just come out in the market. This is called a reflection machine. And it works from the principle, let me stop there for a second. You have heard about photons and electrons, right? Have you heard what is called pair production? Probably not. That's a little too advanced. So what happens is, pair production is a mechanism when, something happens by, the electrons and positrons, they they come close to each other, and two photons come in two opposite directions. So that's the principle that is used in this machine, and how to treat this patient. What you see, this is another kind of machine, and on these two sides are a bank of detectors. They're called PET detectors. So a patient, how does it work? This machine also has a CT scanner built inside it. It has these PET detectors that are there. And this is a radiation source linear accelerator that produces all, the high energy radiation, 6 million electron volts. You get a battery, like 1 volt battery. Those batteries may have, say, 1 volt. You put 6 million of them together. The energy that you'll get from them, that's the energy that is used from this machine to treat these patients. So how does it work? So I think it's moving, yeah. Okay, so you see that. So these are the detectors of PET detectors, and the green shows where the radiation is coming. These are called multi-leaf collimators. They open and shut very quickly, very rapidly, so that you can radiate the patient. So you have a patient here. We inject with what we call FDG. It's a glucose, so it goes predominantly where the tumor is. In this case, the patient has, in the two lungs, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 tumors. And in the liver, there are 5 tumors. If we try to treat this patient today, we have to bring these patients many different days to treat all these 5 lesions. But with this technology, you can treat all of them on the same day. So what happens? So this, the FDG is a PET, it's a tracer. It goes predominantly where the tumor is, and from that comes 2 photons in opposite directions. So you'll see what is happening here. So the patient is laying in, these are the tumors, and all the turquoise lines, I don't know that you can see it, they go in, they are the lines through which the photons are coming. So don't worry about this at this second. These are some of the details. So you'll see from the tumor, there will be radiation that will be coming out, and they'll be detected by this bank of detectors on both sides. So you see that, okay, so patient goes inside the machine, and the machine rotates around, and you see, oops, sorry. Oh my goodness. I tried to stop it too soon. Okay, you see the tumor out here and on the right, and the tumor is moving, and oops, oh, I made a mistake again. Let's try over. So I have to learn when to stop. So what I'm going to show you is, you see these turquoise lines, they show where the tumor is, and that they are detected by these detectors. So you know the tumor lies along a straight line. So once you have detected it, then you bring the source of radiation, and that hits the tumor. So that's basically the idea in this case. So you'll see that is happening. So they're all detected by the detectors, and you bring the source of radiation, and you fire. Green is the line where you are firing radiation, and turquoise is the line when you are firing, when you see where how the detectors are detecting. So this is, again, a new technology. I mean, this has just come into the market. So there are all different kinds of machines. And so one of our role as medical physicists is that we develop these machines. You have just heard about that, the CyberKnife. There's a radiation oncologist, the physician who was involved in the development of that machine. It's the robots. You are the ones who will be building those robots. You are the ones who will be doing research. You're the ones who will be figuring out how to enhance this technology, to come up something new. the last machine that I showed you, I was involved with the inventors of this for 10 years. And finally, this machine has come into the market. There was a business guy from Stanford, two young kids. They came up with the idea, very unusual idea to try to do this, and they built this machine. So if you want to do research and development and use the technology that tech geek, they will say that you are, there are opportunities for you to do this. So let's go and talk about, I'll have Carmen to talk about robots and human beings. Bring the human side of it. We have been talking about technology, now let's bring the human side of it. Carmen, it's yours. You please tell me when.
And if you want to keep my
can you hear
also
Carmen?
my
Can you hear you? I
presentation,
don't
yes,
hear you.
because I see it's very hard to share and unshare and all of this. Thank you.
Do you want to share it, or do you want me to advance the slides?
Yes, please help me and share you the slides.
Okay, I have just gone to the next slide, so go ahead, please.
Okay. Because the hardest part for me is to speak to teenager, because I'm a mother of an adolescent, and she is my best critic. And also I know you attend one of the best high school in Bucharest, and you kids love robots, and I don't know anything about robots. But I want to be here with Professor Hack because I want to show you what is behind the biggest project that civil society has now in Romania. And I want maybe to recruit future specialists in physics, physicians, medical physicists, or maybe recruit future donors, or your heart and your involvement. So after I accepted the invitation from Professor Hack and Ileana, I started to think what should be interesting for you, and in connection with robots. And after a short research, I found out the famous 3 laws of robotics written by Isaac Asimov in his book Run Around. Laws, and these laws, people, I think, should be guided. And these 3 laws are a robot may not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. The second law, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And the third law, a robot must protect its own existence as long as protection does not conflict with the first or second law. With these 3 laws of robots in mind, we try to do we have been doing for more than 10 years. And to simplify things, I should say that I have in mind that the robot is the doctor and the human being is the patient. And in this way, the 3 law becomes, the first law is a physician through his action or inaction shouldn't harm a patient. The second law becomes a physician must obey the orders given by the patient. And the third law becomes a physician must protect his or her own existence. And what I want to say is that in Romania, these laws are violated. Some are violated for real, some in a metaphorical way. And in the next few minutes, I will try to explain why I'm saying this. Because in Romania, 1 out of 2 children And you should move at the next slide, Professor Hack, if you can. Thank you. 1 out of 2 children, yes, this is it, diagnosed with cancer dies, while abroad 80 or sometimes 90% of them survive. And imagine that in your hands you have the hands of 2 children, and you need to say goodbye to one of them. Could you choose which one should be? I think it's hard for you to think about it, and it's hard for everybody to think of it. And I will try to explain, because I found out in the last years what are the causes that explain this situation. One of the most important causes is infrastructure. Imagine that the majority of oncology departments in Romania have shared toilets. In Marie Curie Hospital in Bucharest, there are 30 children with their mothers that shared 2 toilets and 2 showers. Also, what should we know, that children are treated in hospital for adults without any access to an ICU department, without access to surgery, or we don't talk about multidisciplinary treatment. Tumor boards, there is a must in oncology, but we have only on paper. In Romania, a lot of drugs missing. Essential drugs, oncological drugs, are missing, and even if through the years we've heard a lot of news regarding the shortage of drugs, nothing happened. And from a physician point of view, they live in a country where medical system that never gives them the chance to say that they did everything to save the child, because to do everything from the doctor's perspective means to have access at a multidisciplinary team, at drugs, but without timely investigation, without surgery and multidisciplinary team, they can never say I did my best. They can say only I tried. And this is not the same thing. When I think to put something in this presentation, I thought a lot of trying to look at the Romanian medical system from a positive perspective, because I'm here maybe to empower you. But also I think that empowering has a lot to do with telling the truth without any attempts of beautifying it. And unfortunately, this is the truth in Romania. But we have also a positive perspective. And the positive perspective is that right now we are building the first pediatric oncology and radiotherapy hospital in Romania. And you can move, Professor Hack, at the next slide. Thank you. And when I say we are building, we means that we are more than 350,000 individual donors, more than 4,000 companies as sponsors. a lot of volunteers, a lot of celebrities, media that sustain our project, a lot of specialists and consultants from abroad, and Professor Hack is one of our consultants in this project, and he will help a lot with the radiotherapy department that will be the first radiotherapy department for children in Romania. And if you ask why, because why we are building this hospital is because we don't have any excuse not to do it. Because we are the one witnessing this reality and have no excuse to abandon people in this difficult situation. Because illness is not a choice, but involvement, I think it is. We are building the first hospital these days, and this is means a lot of things, not only the building. This means equipment, means specialists, means education, and of course, as I say, long-term involvement. And because you don't know anything about hospitals, or maybe you see hospitals how they are in Romania, I would like to say about our hospital and what will this hospital be, because it's very different from every hospital that you can see in Romania, and maybe abroad. What we saw that this hospital is very different from what we have now. And we hope this hospital, we know, not we hope, we are sure that this hospital will be a functional place in dysfunctional and collapsing healthcare system, because this is our medical system. And at the next slide. Thank you. It's going to be a place where children don't have to put their childhood on hold anymore, because difficult illness has taken over their lives. A place where illness doesn't come together with humiliation, because in our country this is what happened in every hospital, in every public hospital where you are going. And the entire space breathes normally. If this photo is from one mock-up of a room in the hospital, because for months at a time, children with cancer are deprived of childhood, of fantasy, of games, or dreaming, fun, and instead get know a lot about cytostatics, cannulas, surgery, drugs. They know everything. Even they have 4 years or 10 years or 16 years, they know everything about their treatment. This hospital will include a cinema, will include a lot of recreation spaces, playrooms, and also education facilities, because these children stay a lot in hospital. Also, the hospital will have an innovative sound system, and we work with one of the best architects in Romania, Raluca Șoaită, and she loved what she does, and she thought at this hospital. When she saw at this hospital, she take a look outside, and she was very inspired about what happened abroad, and take all the things that are the best. This audio system will be here in an attempt to remind the children that the real world still exists. Also, we hope we'll have a digitization that will improve the functioning of the hospital by making it more cost effective and identifying technical issues more easy and creating a procedure management system. And I hope it's a hospital that everyone in this country will be proud of. One that will show us that Romania is no longer the country of it's impossible. For the first time, Romania, there is a big community which fights the impossible. Next slide. This project started from the scratch is a very dynamic one. In 2015, when we started to think to renovate oncology department, we didn't think that we will build a hospital. It was a crazy idea. But now we are building, and because we decided to expand it, and because for this we need more money, in October this year we started a fundraising campaign. And our brief to the agency was to build a campaign in which children that are fighting with a heart disease are not seen with pity, because we are looking at the children with a heart disease with pity, and this pity doesn't help the children, doesn't help us. And we want to show in this campaign their courage, and to encourage fighting, and to encourage people to follow them and be courageous also. And children from this campaign are the real veterans in the fight against cancer. They were treated at Marie Curie Hospital. Some of them won battle by battle, and finally they won the war. Others are still fighting, as Simona is. You see Simona in this photo, a 17-year-old teenager with cancer. She found out that she had a tumor when she was 12. She lost one leg in the battle, and she had a lot of surgeries, chemotherapy, and also radiotherapy. She made all the treatments they are used to be in cancer. Now, look at Simona and try to see the whole picture. At Marie Curie, she is sharing the same ward, maybe with a noisy child, doctors who don't know how to talk to her, and when we discussed with Simona, he talked about this topic, about the communication with the doctors, that was very hard for her. And now remember the 3 laws of medicine. They are violated, as I say, day by day in Romania. But Simona is still fighting with a lot of courage, and has accepted to be part of our fundraising campaign. Through this campaign, we want to recruit 100,000 fighters to win battle by battle, and together to win the war. And Metallica donated the rights for the Unforgiven play in this TV spot. And now I want to show you the TV spot. Maybe for this I need to share my screen. Yes.
Do you want to do that, Carmen?
I hope I can. Let's see.
So I have to unshare first.
Yes.
So you think I'll learn? Haven't learned yet.
Thank you for helping
There
because
should be a
I.
red button on your screen.
Sorry, I'm looking for it again.
Okay.
Okay, so
And now I hope I know how to share. Okay.
see how you all can help us?
Yes, I think I. Do you see my my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
And also, do you see the spot?
Yes, so
We can
Okay.
see YouTube.
Now I play.
yeah, you have to start from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not from the beginning?
Okay,
Yes, it's from the beginning. Okay.
So if you stop sharing, then I will share screen.
Let's see if I know how.
There we are. So let me share the screen now and go to this slide. One other thing, and this will be the last time we have to go through this process.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. To conclude, access to a better healthcare system means access to our empathy, to our conscious, to our inner force. And I invite you, I challenge you to be part of it. And you can be part of it through a career path because you can become surgeons, you can become medical oncologist, you can become medical physicist, and you have the chance to make this hospital the best in Europe and the perfect place where children will be treated. Or you have the opportunity to be part of it by becoming donors, becoming founders of the hospital, ambassadors of our cause, or volunteering yourself. Think about it. And check out on our site, dăruieșteviață.ro, and build our future and be part of our dream, a place where cancer should be only a constellation. I want to thank you, and I hope it will help you for your future. because we need you. Thank you.
So I think I've stopped sharing. So we all should be on the same screen and be able to see each other. Sorry. Let me minimize all the screens so that we can see all of us. So, if I may add to a couple more words to what Carmen has said, you can be also the engineer, the robotic engineer. You can also be the political leader in the country who can change the system. You've heard Carmen saying that some of the challenges that she's fighting against the existing corruption and the infrastructure to make things different. The physicians take bribe. That is not something that we can think of we should be doing. So you can be that political leader. And the good thing about being a physicist, I have learned through my career, is that we actually can do anything that we want. We are trained in such a way. We can be a business manager. We can be a politician. We can be a great scientist. We can be a robotic engineer. We can be anything that we want and really make a major difference. And the cancer center that Carmen that showed, that is being built in Bucharest, I can assure you that will be the best cancer center. That will be the envy of centers in Europe. The technology that we have put together, that's an envy for myself. I don't have that technology at my centers. It has really the highest end technology. The radiation oncology is a discipline which is really driven by technology. That's where you come in. The physicians, physicists, we all use our mind, but it's the technology that is used. I've shown you some technology that are used to treat these patients. And so when you grow up, there are tremendous opportunities. I'm sure you think what you want to be in life. And we thought that we'll show you some aspect that you may or may not have been exposed to. And where Carmen's path, career journey, and my journey, somehow we accidentally met. I have a passion for treating cancer patients. I never wanted to be a physician, and I can't be a physician. I can't. They're too good for me. But I thought I would do physics. That's why I wanted to be a physicist. But my elder brother's son. You heard about Simona, her leg being amputated. My elder brother's son was diagnosed with sarcoma, and that child died at the age of 4.5. So that's where I got passionate about children. And so when I met Carmen, I said that I was actually very honored that she pulled me into the project that they're building. So I am working with them as a team. Really together, I know we'll build the best cancer center that there can be, for children. Okay, we have taken a long time. I know, and we said that oh my God, it's an hour, 11 minutes already. We are here for you. You may have another session scheduled, but we are here for as long as you want us, and any questions that you may have. Shoot.
I would like to know how did you find out about the medical physics, and why did you choose it?
So it was accidental. It's a combination of different things. As I said, when I finished my PhD, I wanted to teach, and I still do. I do a lot of research, a lot of training. I have a lot of students who have become very well-known physicians around the U.S. And they're the chairmen, the directors of the radiation oncology departments, and many physicists who have become very well-known. You have your teacher, I guess, here. That's the pride of the teachers when their students become better than them. And so how did I get into medical physics? I told you early on, I was thinking, how can I apply the principle of physics so that I can see the reward. reward of that on a day-to-day basis. And when one of my memorable experiences was when I treated a child, and at the end of the treatment, when the child ran to her mom, and the mom picked her up, and the mother came and thanked me for everything that we have done, and that stays with me. So these are the sources of inspiration. So how did I get into medical physics? I had that thing in my mind to see the application in real life, and I was looking for a job. That was many years ago with a PhD at that time. There were like 1,400 PhDs looking for the same job across the United States. And I could not find a job where I could teach and do in pure physics in a very high-end university and set up my research program. So I ended up getting into what I discovered at that time accidentally. I sent a job application to somebody at Yale University, and he calls me and says, "Dr. Huck, I want to schedule an interview for you." And I thought, my God, I did not know that I interviewed and I sent a job application for a medical physicist position. I thought that I sent a application to be a faculty, to be a professor at a university. So when he called me up for the interview, I got excited. I'm getting a job interview at Yale, say one of the Ivy League schools in the United States, one of the top schools. And so when I thought that I'm interviewing for a faculty position in physics. Then he said, no, you applied for medical physics, like a trainee postdoc position. I said, no, I never applied for a postdoc position. I'm looking for a faculty position. Then he said, I still remember, he said, "Dr. do you think I got your CV from the sky? Your CV tells me you're looking for a position here." But so the point is, Alex, it was accidentally I got involved in that. And I never looked back because I wanted to do a lot of research, training, education, and then also be involved in doing things, application of physics principle in medicine. And that this discipline gave it all to me. So it has been a very rewarding experience. And you have seen in that video what the medical physicists do. If you want to do science, you can do science. You want to do research, you can do research. You want to do build technology, you can do that. You want to create new technique to treat patients, we can do that. When I'm in the clinic, when a patient comes, it has a very different disease, new disease that we are not used to treating. The physicians will call me or the physics group, "Tell us, how do you treat this? We have not seen this before." So we are that orchestra in the clinic, as I mentioned earlier on in the opera. So we help them. We are independent thinkers. We think differently than the physicians, but we are a team. So that's how I got in. Other questions?
Well, since this meeting is taking place during the European Robotics Week, I have a robotics-related question for you.
Okay, I hope I can answer.
Do you believe in a fully... Sorry, what?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you believe in a fully automated healthcare system? And if you do so, when would you speculate this would happen?
Very good question. Very, very good question. Things are getting so automated this year. Almost everything that we do is getting automated, but not everything is automated to the level that we can. That robot that you saw with the moving around the patient, that motion is all automated. And how do you know that the robot is not going to hit the patient? You are the one who will be writing that code to create a zone around the patient that's a safe zone. Carmen said that the robots have to follow the order given by you. I hope the robot doesn't take over, right? But you will be writing that code telling that robot, this is what the patient is lying, this patient is this big or this little, and this is the safe zone, okay? You cannot get into that safe zone, and yet the motion has to be such that the motion, the entire treatment takes place in a very in a quick fashion. You do not want the patient to be laying on the table for a half an hour, 2 hours. I remember early days when this first robot came at my center, one of the first ones, the third unit, after it was built at UPMC. We used to take 2 hours to treat a patient on the table. And imagine, and this patient cannot move because we are delivering very high doses of radiation with sub-millimeter accuracy. Imagine you laying on the table for 10 minutes. I'll be the worst patient, I tell you. If you tell me not to move, I'm the one who will be moving first. So those days, things were not automated. There's a lot of automation that has taken place. Those treatments that used to take 2 hours, now we're doing that in half an hour. You'll make it treat in 10 minutes, right? You're the one who will devise, improve this technology. That's the German KUKA robot, right? You'll improve this technology. You'll drive it. You'll figure out ways how fast to move. What is the shortest distance? And yet you're able to deliver radiation so that you can treat that patient. So it's the robot, it's the other Linux that we use. There's a lot of automation that are taking place. Yes, the goal eventually is, it's actually my dream that if I'm able to tell the robot or the machine, the patient is laying on the table, go and treat and deliver the radiation dose that the physician wants to deliver. Make sure you have not treated any unnecessary normal tissue. And the machine goes and treats. That's the challenge for you.
Thanks.
I know that medical physicists calculate and establish how to administer that photon electron dose you told us about. Is it difficult?
Is it difficult to deliver that radiation?
Yes, and calculate and establish how much quantity of photons and electrons do you need?
So it is actually not difficult, but it is very important. That is one of our roles that we play in the clinic. That machine that you have seen, or any kind of linear accelerator, when we buy that machine and we put that machine in the clinic, we do a lot of work first to see the room, the vault, that we call it a vault, the room that machine goes in. We do a lot of calculation to make sure that the radiation that will not get out of the room, because we are all outside. These radiations are very energetic. You put a 6 feet concrete wall and this radiation will still go out. And so we do a lot of calculation to make sure that the radiation level is outside. And then we spend months to figure out is the machine doing exactly what it is supposed to do? We calculate, we do all kinds of measurements, and what we call calibrate the machine so that the machine will deliver exactly the same level of radiation that we expect it to. Because if you deliver the wrong radiation, you can kill the patient. And many patients have been killed. So you need to be trained. And so as our knowledge grows, when you tell the machine, give this much radiation, and it delivers that much precisely, that research has gone for decades. And I'm not kidding you, for decades. And there are hundreds of PhD that has come out to essentially to be able to precisely develop technologies and the means to figure out how to deliver the radiation and calculate it that accurately. And so now we have come at a point where we are able to do that very accurately. But there are still ways to improve them. We talk about uncertainties 0.0001%. There are PhDs who have done, many students have spent PhD doing calculations that will improve the accuracy by 0.00001%. So that's where the physicists come in. That's where the robotics come in. That's where the engineers come in. That's where the technology comes in. But it's not difficult. You learn it, but then you create it. The people who developed it 2 decades ago, then the other people who came afterwards, they improved upon that. And constantly, it's a continuous evolution. The way we treated patients 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and still treating in many parts of the world with the technology that is out there, is very different than how we treat patients in the Western world. And the technology that will go in this children's hospital, I guarantee you, as I said, that's my envy. I don't have that technology here. It'll be one of the best in Europe, one of the best in the world. And, I mean, really, I take my hat off to Carmen and her colleague Oana. What they have really done, is, when they started building this center, imagine the hundreds of thousands of children for generations. Your children, your grandchildren, their friends, should they get cancer, they'll have a great place for treatment compared to what they are going through now. Just think the big picture. Always think ahead 10 years, 15 years. And this is where you can make a difference. You do, whatever you do, like I said, that CyberKnife machine, that was designed, that robot machine, that was designed by a physician. So you can be that champion, you can be that leader in the world and still bring your robotic expertise or something else. Or you can be the prime minister of Romania and change everything. All the work with Carmen and or her colleagues at that time and change all the corruption, make a difference. The work that you are doing is going to make a difference in the world. You are our future. You are the future of the country and the world. Carmen appealed to you. To make it. Yes, please go.
Think of it as a cycle as well. So first of all, an apparatus is discovered, then it started developing on that type of equipment, but then people find out that it isn't as effective as another type of equipment and start creating new ones.
Very good question. Mate, is that how you pronounce your name? Okay. If I don't pronounce your name correctly, please forgive me for that. So, very good question. I showed you 2 machines. The second machine that I showed you, that's a totally different generation of machine. And, I say that this will change the healthcare, the way we treat cancer patients today. And it is built on totally different kind of physics principles. And this does not exist until a few months ago. And these 2 inventors, I remember my boss, he's a radiation oncologist, and we were at a professional society meeting. They came to us to get our opinion. And we sat at that meeting on a napkin. They explained their concept to us, and we have done a lot of the work in this field. So they wanted our opinion, and we loved that concept, totally different concept. And the machine that they built does not exist today. So to answer your question, you will be coming up with and yet another technology that may make what exists today as obsolete. The machine that existed 10, 15 years ago has almost become obsolete because newer technologies have come in. So this will be a continuous development. And radiation therapy is something that about 50% of the cancer patients in the world, they will need radiation. And radiation is taking on a new meaning these days, because you may have heard patients receiving chemotherapy, their hair fall off. You have seen Simona. Her hair has fallen off, right, from the chemotherapy that she's getting. She's bald-headed, right? So there are a lot of toxicity. These are all very toxic medicine that go into your bloodstream and make you very sick, right? So radiation generally is used to deliver it as a local therapy. If you have a brain cancer, you just give radiation in the brain where the tumor is. If you have a breast cancer, you just give radiation to the breast. But chemotherapy, or these days immunotherapy, that's another way, another advanced form of chemotherapy. These are drugs. They go into the patient's whole body, and cause a lot of toxic effect, right? So, but radiation is, we are finding out, radiation is starting, we can start to see how, what kind of impact it has on immune system. You may have learned in your biology classes about immune system. When you get a cold, when you get a temperature, your immune system goes to fight that cold, so you get better. So we are finding out that the chemotherapy or immunodrugs that go inside the patient, the whole body, when you treat with radiation, even though you treat locally, it is trying to create some sort of immune response that can actually start to cure some tumors that you otherwise didn't expect it to be. So radiation is an important component of how these cancer patients are treated. As I mentioned early, there are three main modalities: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and then there are many other kinds also, that are used to treat patients. Does that answer your question, Matei?
Do you hear me?
I can't hear. Somebody asked a question. I think Edward Alphabet, a nice picture image came on, but I can't hold the person is. But can somebody help maybe tell me what the question was?
Darius asked you something. He's now muted.
Oh yes, may I ask
Quite
something?
get it.
Yes, Darius.
I was quite interested in biology, but generally speaking about biology, I heard some rumors. I don't know if they are true, but I heard that the biologists created a 3D printed functional organ, and I don't know how true this rumor is, but I was really wondering if it's true or not. And for example, one more thing, artificial made neurons. And I was wondering if these things is possible for the moment.
So you should, in life I have learned, when there's a rumor, some of it is true actually. They're not always rumors. So start to believe some of it and do your own homework to find out what is rumor and what is truth. But there's always some truth to it. So there are all kinds of artificial things that are being built. There's a company in Boston, they are building, I forget the name of it, chip something it is called. Give me a second, I'll be able to probably find out. So the idea here is they are growing artificial lung and artificial other organs that behave exactly like a normal lung of a patient. So that's a question I guess you're talking about, the growth of artificial organs, but they behave like real organs. And the idea here is that if you want to do some research as to what kind of radiation you want to give to patients, you cannot, we can't do experiment on human beings, right? The kind of radiation that we do, and if we want to see that what the response of radiation will be for if you're treating a lung tumor, we can't experiment on human beings. So how do we do it? We do it on animals, right? And from the animal model, we convert that eventually to human models. And now there are different manufacturers, the entrepreneurs, right, who are building these artificial organs. And we actually want to collaborate with one of them, and this company in Boston, bring in that organ to see what the effect of radiation dose is using a new technique that we are developing. We have a children's hospital where I work, and these children, sometimes depending on their disease, that need a whole body radiation, they need a transplant, and then kill all their marrows, and with the whole body radiation. And so we wanted to change the technique as to the current technique. It's called total body irradiation, but we want to do it in a very different way. And so we reached out to this company because they have built this artificial lung, and we wanted to see what the effect of this new technique will be. So yes, did I answer your question? There are artificial organs and artificial intelligence. Somebody asked a question early on, I think Mate, you're talking about artificial intelligence. That is going to play a major role in what we do in terms of automation. So in terms of how we generate all these treatment plans, when a patient has, say, for example, a prostate tumor, what the physicians do after a CT imaging is done or an MRI imaging is done, the physicians go and delineate on those images where the prostate tumor is. And it takes hours and hours of physician times to do some of those. As an example, I'm mentioning, and artificial intelligence is coming to automate all of those. A lot of the work that we are doing, you are the one who will be developing all this artificial intelligence stuff, right? So to go back to Darius, your question, the radiobiology is very important. When physicians want to become a radiation oncologist, when they start their residency, they learn three things. One is radiobiology, one is the radiation side, and the third is, they've learned anatomy, physiology during their training in medical school. Then they start to learn the radiobiological aspect of the interaction of radiation with the different organs. So these are the things we train them. As a physicist, I train them with radiation side. There are radiobiologists who train them all the different radiobiological model. What happens when you give so much dose to this organ or that organ? What are the tolerances of dose for different tissues before they start to react in a very toxic way? Yes, artificial organs are being produced, and there are a lot of experiments being done using those artificial organs to determine the level of the radiation doses. Do they become toxic or not? How much radiation can they really tolerate? Does that help, Darius? Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. And I also understand how would radiology would affect the organs, and what would be the impact facing the artificial organs. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you think that artificial intelligence could somewhere in future predict how much quantity do you need to treat the patient of photons and electrons, that absolutely everything is automated?
So you want to drive that artificial intelligence. If the world, everything becomes so automated that you become useless, which will it never be, it cannot be. Artificial intelligence is something that you are creating, right? To make it easy for you. So artificial intelligence, the way I look at it, is it's not going to replace me as a physician or as a physicist. It will aid me to treat a patient the best possible way that there can be. Let me give you an example. Suppose you have a breast cancer patient. Breast cancer is a general term. Under these, there are many different microscopic level. You look at all kinds of information at the genomic level. And every patient is different. The response to the treatment is very person dependent. Depending on the kind of disease that you have, is you respond to a treatment a certain way. Now, you take two women. They both have breast cancer, similar kind of staging and everything, but they can respond to the treatment differently. So you'll hear the word personalized medicine. What does that mean? We try to tailor the treatment of every patient, what is best for that patient. That is really our ultimate goal. And we are not quite there yet. So one way to get there is, imagine you treated 100,000 breast cancer patients, similar diagnosis, okay? And there are all subtle differences. And as a physician, in your career, if you have seen 10,000 patients, you know from your experience, oh, this patient has this, that patient has this. So they bring their experience and their knowledge to diagnose a patient. But they may not always be right, because their information is based on the 10,000 patients that they have treated. But person to person can be very different. So if you have this 100,000 patient data somewhere in a big database, you hear about big data. And then you are able to look at the genomic level what the disease is for a given patient, how that patient received, and if you have the outcome data for all of those patients in the database, right? So you know every patient, given this treatment, this was the outcome. This patient was a slightly different outcome. This patient was a slightly different outcome. So you have a database of 1 million patients. And you write your artificial intelligence code that goes and looks at all of this information. And now, Alex, you are the physician, radiation oncologist, and a patient comes to see you, a breast cancer patient comes to see you, and you see the patient. And you hit the button in your computer after you type in a little bit of the staging that you have diagnosed according to your experience, and the artificial intelligence, that software comes and tells you, Dr. Zob, the diagnosis that you have come with, I've looked at 1 million patients and looked at all the outcome that they had. If you treat the patient this way, you probably will get a better outcome. So you look at big data, you look at artificial intelligence, it essentially takes all different kinds of patterns, right, in many ways, and put them all together. So it will not only help our work, I see that as aiding our work to provide the best quality of care to a patient. And so that's from a diagnosis and treatment perspective. From an automation perspective, and as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of things that we do in the clinical world, in terms of making sure that the machine is behaving correctly. There are a lot of quality assurance, quality control measures that we do. That's one of the major things that you heard in that video that medical physicists do, quality management. Make sure that the machine, Alex, you asked, is the machine delivering the radiation that you think it's supposed to deliver? We do all kinds of tests. And a lot of these, again, artificial intelligence will come into the picture to automate all of these, making my life better in the sense that now I'm able to spend my intelligence to do something different, help make something better rather than doing the routine stuff. The artificial intelligence will help me do that. So I'm just giving you some examples as to how artificial intelligence will aid us in really furthering the care, and really the goal is to deliver that personalized medicine to every child, every adult, every individual. Great question. Other questions?
I also have a question. So do you think that in the far future will further development of already existing techniques be possible, or will they be obsolete?
So let me answer this question this way. When I showed you that patient with 5 tumors, okay? And with the current technology that we have, if we were to treat these patients with a new technique that we have developed, we give very high doses of radiation compared to even these days, and only very few centers can do it because you need lots of technology, lots of expertise, and lots of knowledge. And we have developed new technique we call radiosurgery. Radiosurgery. So, surgery is the way when you go and cut the tumor out, remove it. Radiosurgery is you use radiation to do the job of a surgeon. You're doing surgery using radiation. Okay, but you do not cut the patient open. You have the patient laying on the table and radiation is coming from the machine. You give a very high doses of radiation, but extremely accurately, so 0.2 millimeter accuracy, 0.3 millimeter accuracy. So it's a new technique that is out, we are using now. We did not use it even a few years ago. And it is still not used all over the world, at all the centers, because the resources do not exist. And I think Darius asked about the radiobiology. So we know from our decades of radiobiological knowledge that we deliver this much radiation at a certain rate. And that's how we have treated patients for decades. Now, radiosurgery is a new technique. And we are giving very high doses of radiation. We do not know. First of all, it's a new technique that we have developed. And we do not know what the radiobiological aspect of it. So we do a radiosurgery course here. We train physicians, physicists, and other people. And we tell them what we are teaching you today. 3 years from today, this knowledge that we have today will become obsolete. Because we do not know. It's a lot of trial and error. So, but there are new techniques. We see the outcome is getting better when you treat these patients that came through clinical trials. So, it's bright people like you who will be out in the clinic coming up with ideas saying, this is how we have been treating these breast patients today. Based upon this new, I think I can do better. You come up with a new way. So, and then the new way that you have come up with, that's when you do a clinical trial, right? And you compare your new way to the existing technique that you're treating, and you come up with a better way. And that's how we grow continuously. That's how we evolve. And yes, the technology that is today, it will be very different coming in the future. There's already a new technique, you should look up flash therapy, it's called. It's a very different way of we will be treating patients in the future. Right now, when the patient is on the table, it takes typically 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how we treat these patients. With a flash, and that's the time the patient is on the table. With the flash therapy, the patient's treatment will be delivered in milliseconds. Milliseconds. With an extremely high dose. It's a totally different world. And if the patient moves a little bit during that millisecond, you have given a very high dose of radiation to a very different organ. You have not hit the tumor. So when you become, some of you become a radiation oncologist, you'll see that you're treating your patients with flash therapy. That's where we're going.
You've talked about how beneficial robots are and will be in medicine, but how do you think, can you think of any cons of having robots replace medical personnel?
As I said, they will not replace medical personnel. I like to think that they aid us, make things better for us. The robots can actually injure patients. Imagine that machine that I showed you. If something went wrong as the robot is moving, it can go that thousands and thousands of pounds of that gadget goes and hits the patient, and the patient dies on the table. That has happened actually. The machines have hit the patient on the table because there was the operator problem. Then operator drove the machine to hit the patient. It has happened even at my center. But then the automation start to happen, right? So the robots have to be, I see another younger generation with Diana, with our mentor. I see the future another generation there, and already joining this group, the robotic group there.
Yes, yes. Just I want to ask something, but before of this, I thank both for your ability to be beside us and to answer our students' questions and to spend your free time beside us. I will start with one question for Mrs. Carmen. And after this, with another one for Professor Hook. The words, I think, are not enough for empathize with what you are doing for the children with cancer, Mrs. Carmen. And I wish ask you, starting with knowledge that radiology is an area what can prevent some serious illness. Do you think it's a good solution to invest in advanced radiological technology, given that some cancer drugs are hard to find or even non-existing, and both specialist doctor are not enough, not even in our country, maybe in the world. Maybe it's a good solution to invest in advanced radiological technology. What do you think? It's a good position for your association, for the hospital that you build in our country?
Thank you for question. When Professor Hack answered with a lot of questions of children, I thought that this world of robotics is also for girls, because I stay and I numbered, I count all the people that are here, and from 33, 18 are girls and ladies, and I'm very happy with this. Also, to answer your question, from my point of view, is a technical question, but because I discussed a lot with Professor Hack regarding radiology and radiotherapy, I understand that it's very important to have in radiology department the advanced technique, and this is why we will have in the next building that we'll have after this, because we expanded the project, and we will build another building where we will include also all the specialties from Marie Curie Hospital. We will have a PET CT, that is the last in radiology. And maybe at this question could answer with more details Professor Hack, because
Sure. Absolutely.
and I'm economist. I don't know what is the most important for this. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Sure. And you had another question. Maybe let me answer, add to what Carmen has just mentioned. What is very important is to have the right kind of professionals. If you buy, I always like to give an example. You buy a high-end airplane, a Boeing 787. That's the latest Boeing model, right? But if you don't have the right pilot, that plane is useless. So, Diana, I think where you are coming also is we are investing all this into all these technologies. Is that good? Absolutely. But we need the right professionals.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, to drive.
Are recursive, both.
Sorry?
Both things are recursive, specialist and technology.
Exactly. So, and so what we are working on together as a team, that, as we recruit the professionals, we'll be sending them abroad, to train them how to treat children. Treatment of children with radiation is very different than the treatment of adult. And using the technology the right way, the right technology, the right way to treat the children, that requires a lot of training. And so our goal is to recruit the right kind of professionals and send them to the centers where they're already professionals are being, they're treating children, they're treating adults using similar technology. So, and they'll be trained for a very long time. It's not just like a week or 10 days. We'll be sending them for a whole year, say, for example, to be fully trained. Then they'll come back home and they'll become like the trainers. So they will become the experts in the use of those technology. And radiation therapy is really, as I mentioned early on, it's a technology-driven discipline. So that's where the medical physicists come in, because we know we are the ones who put that technology into clinical use. We know how to do that. We learn. And as new technologies come, we figure out. And then we train everybody, right? So I'm hoping from this bright group of people, in another, you're all 16, 18 years old, in another 7, 8 years, 10 years, you'll decide where you are going, in your career. And if some of you want to become that physician and want to be one of those physicians in this children's hospital, you'll have the best technology, sometimes people say toys, actually, but we don't like to say toys. The best technology to give the best care to that child. And in the world of the drugs, so it's an invention development that is happening. In the world of radiation oncology, there's a continuous technological development. In the world of drugs, there are developments in the drugs. I talked about chemotherapy, and you hear about chemotherapy, right? Chemotherapy, there are all kinds of chemotherapy, is essentially different kind of drugs. You give these drugs to the patients, they go into the body and kill the tumor cells. But then since they go into the whole body in the bloodstream, they kill the normal cells also. That's how they get, patients get sick. So now there's a new set of drugs that are coming out. We call that immunotherapy drugs. They work with, the immune system. And there's a lot of clinical trials and studies that these different pharmacological companies, they've found out that if you treat a patient with a given immunodrug, if that patient lives, say, a year, 6 months, or 2 years, if you treat with the immunodrugs, their lifetime, they're living, say, 2 years, 3 years. Their lifetime has doubled now. The quality of life has gotten better. And now if you're able to combine that drug with a very advanced level of radiation treatment, I talked about radiosurgery. This is a very advanced level of technique. If you combine them, that increases the lifetime of these patients even better. So if you do not use the advanced technology, you cannot deliver that advanced treatment. So then you're not helping the patient the way you otherwise could. So it's a continuous development of technology, drug, and also in the surgical world. It's a combination of all of them that really, in the end, either is increasing the overall survival of the patients or increasing the quality of life. The quality of life of these patients, when you see the pain and the agony that they go through, the toxicity that they have, it's sad. And if you can give them some reprieve from that pain, it's all this technology and the combination that help improve the quality of their life. Maybe you cannot increase the survival, but you can make the last 6 months of their life to be a much better life, which otherwise it could be. See, in the clinic, we see lung cancer patients. every day. Every day.
Thank you. And I have another questions for you. Considering how the Da Vinci robot is continually improving new versions related to the robotic surgery, how do you think tomography computers and magnetic resonance scanners will develop in the future? Of course, with artificial intelligence and another modern technology.
So let's take MR scanners. You mentioned MRI. Why do we use sometimes MRI imaging? Because some of the tissue, like if you look at an MR imaging of the brain, you see the tissue much better because of the technology behind MR imaging than a CT imaging. How many of you, the children here, or I shouldn't say young generation, younger group, do you know what an MR, have you seen an MR machine or a CT machine or images that come out of them if an image was taken? Anybody? Maybe not. So you know, in the clinic, when we see, for example, a brain tumor patient, what we do a CT image, a conventional tomographic image of this brain tumor patient, and the quality of the tumor that we can see on that image, and you take an MRI image of that same patient, the quality is very different. We see a lot of information on that MRI image that we do not see on the CT image. But for radiation treatment, we need that CT image. So what we do, we combine this CT and MRI image, we call fusion, we fuse them, so that we get the best of both worlds. Okay, and we use that information to diagnose where the tumor is, so that we can radiate those tumors, give radiation very accurately with sub-millimeter accuracy. So MR scanners help us in looking at imaging information that is not so good with the CT images. That's one thing that MR images do. The other thing that it does is, after you've treated a patient treatment is finished, how do you know the patient is getting better? You know, you follow the patient now. So all the brain tumor patients, we follow them every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. We get MR images taken to see that, are we able to, is the patient getting a new metastatic disease in the brain? Sometimes they're so small, you cannot see it on other images. So the MR images help us to look at the outcome of the patient. Did we treat the patient correctly? It helps us to delineate the tumor from the beginning, at the front end. So there are now 2 new linear accelerators, machines that have just come out. One has just come out by one vendor, and another was a few years ago, that has built MR capability inside the machine. So with the patient on the table, you take an MR image, and you look at the MR image, and because it gives you better information, you can tell where the tumor is more accurately. And you can bring your artificial intelligence and other ways to figure out how to deliver radiation there. Are you delivering your quality assurance, quality control things to make sure that the radiation be delivered correctly? So there are many of those that come together. So MR imaging has been an integral part of the treatment of this patient, not only for treatment, but also for outcome analysis and many other applications.
Thank you so much. And thank you again both for your time spent with us. And good luck in your project.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Dr. Huck and Carmen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's been a real pleasure. And I want to see some of you, all of you actually, be that leader that we think that you will be, because you are some of the brightest around, right? You are our future. And you will be treating us. And when I train a resident, I tell them, you'll be treating me, so I better make sure that I've trained you well, and you've come up with better ways of treating us. All the best to all of you. I know you all are really a pleasure to see what you are doing, and it's been a real pleasure to spend the last hour and a half or two with you. Okay.
Yeah.
It was an honor to have you.
Thank you. Absolutely. And Carmen wants me to come to Romania sometimes, so I'll be there sometimes.
Looking
Thank
forward to that moment.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All the
Bye.
So yeah, for our next speaker, we have Mr. Dragos Stanka. Hi, Dragos.
Hi, do you hear me right?
Yes.
Okay. English or Romanian?
Let's do English.
Okay. Do you have English colleagues?
I think there were some.
I think now we are just the Romanian teams, so
Okay.
we can in Romanian.
Aș zice că e mai natural să vorbim în română dacă nu sunt colegi din străinătate. Bună, să rămână, salut. Am fost rugat de colegii care m-au contactat să vorbim despre câteva lucruri legate de lucrurile pe care le facem noi. Grupul nostru de companii este implicat în zona de comunicare, marketing, digital mai ales, și zona de ceea ce se numea înainte evenimente. Facem Upgrade 100, care înainte era